meeting of the City Council held August 27th, 2020, reconvened on August 28th, 2020. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Motion made by Councilman Hunter, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Blackwell. Clerk, I'll ask if you will call the roll. If you please vote, your name has been mentioned.
Councilmember Knight,
Yeah.
Blackwell.
Yes.
Warner. Walker.
Yes.
Doddridge.
Yes.
Bullock.
Yes.
And Miller.
Yes.
Motion carries. With that, we have requests for several additions to the agendas. At this time, I'll go over those. It would be the council's pleasure to add those to the agenda or any deletions. Item 1 relates to coronavirus relief fund, basically appropriating monies to the city's budget. Item B will be a closed session for a personnel matter. And then item C will be committee appointments. I understand Councilman Bullock he would like to nominate. Are there any other additions or deletions that we need to consider?
So, Mr. Mayor, would we have a closed session after all the other
I
business?
believe that's probably the appropriate time for that. So, hearing no objections, we'll add those to the agenda. Okay, that brings us to item number 5, which is our update from Madam Rochelle D. Small-Tony, Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and the viewing public. First, I'd like to begin my update by congratulating our finance department for receiving the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019 from the Government Finance Officers Association. The award is the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting and represents a significant accomplishment by government and its management. We appreciate Finance Director Amy Staten and her staff for ensuring our city's financial reporting excels within industry standards. This is the 26th consecutive year that the City of Rocky Mount has received this distinguished award for its comprehensive annual financial report. Our Parks and Recreation Department recently received a $350,000 grant from the North Carolina Parks and Recreation Trust Fund that will go toward renovations for Battle Park Master Plan. Rocky Mount's submission was the #1 scoring project out of 66 applications from across the state. Citizens can expect to see trail renovations, pier replacement, a forestry management program, and nature interpretive learning environments as part of the renovation. In addition to the trust fund grant, the Division of Water Resources of North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality recently awarded a $199,873 grant for Phase 1 of the Battle Park renovation project. This grant will provide financial assistance to renovate approximately 8,760 linear feet of greenway and other associated recreation facilities, as well as to construct 2 rain gardens. Congratulations to Elton Daniels, Assistant City Manager, Joel Dunn, Parks and Recreation Director, and the entire Parks and Recreation staff. We look forward to seeing the continued advancement of the project. Although our Imperial Center is closed to the public, you can take advantage of a variety of free virtual arts programs, including yoga, drawing, and painting. Visit RockyMountNC.gov and ImperialCenter.org for more information. A citywide cleanup effort has been scheduled for the week of October the 11th. All week long, residents are encouraged to place any waste, loose leaf, or bulk items, with the exception of hazard waste materials, on the curb for city collection. Let me give you the dates again. That's all week long, the week of October the 11th. This collection is in addition to regular and bulk pickup schedules. Also, A community-wide cleanup day is scheduled for Saturday, October the 17th, from 8:30 a.m. until 12 o'clock p.m. On Saturday, October the 17th, residents are welcome to come out and clean up your community with city officials and staff. Trash pickup equipment, protective vests, and gloves will be provided by Keep America Beautiful and the City of Rocky Mount. All COVID-19 social distancing and mask coverings will be enforced. You will be hearing more about this in the coming week. Please note, the OIC continues to hold COVID-19 testing sites at the Rocky Mount Event Center. Those tested will need to bring their photo ID and insurance cards. Insurance is not required for testing. Testing days are Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Registration can be performed prior to arrival by logging on to oicrmhub.com or call 252-210-9856 for more information. Finally, as a reminder, you have only 2 days left to send in your 2020 census form. This Wednesday, September 30th, is the last day to complete your form. The census will determine funding for housing programs, schools, hospitals, economic development, and much more in our community. You can respond online, by phone, or by mail for more information, or to respond at visit2020census.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Manager. Any questions for the manager?
I do.
Yes, sir. Councilman Knight.
Madam Manager, in reference to the award we received for 26 years for our financial stability, just in recent articles or statements that Rocky Mount is not a real well-run city or poorly run city. Could you speak to that in reference to the awards that we've been receiving?
Yes, this award is a very distinguished award that is only bestowed to those local governments that meet the financial standards for the National Government Finance Officers Association. And this is an award for our CAPRA, our Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, that the city is required to provide annually. It's the audited books of the city, if you will. So this is nothing that is very likely or easy to come by, and certainly the city continues to stand up to any financial standards that is before it.
We are physically.
Most definitely, sir. Yes, we are physically sound.
Thank you. Any other questions, Councilman
Mr.
Knight?
Mayor. Madam Manager, first of all, I'm glad to hear about the October 17th cleanup. I hope every citizen participates in that's available to do that, because it's up to each citizen to keep our community clean, and we're the ones that make it dirty by throwing trash out. So I greatly appreciate that. But going on to piggyback on what Councilman Knight was just talking about, I did send you an email after the last council meeting on that Tuesday, and you did send the financials, which I appreciate and thank you, but I didn't get anything about the fund balance available to Rocky Mount unless it's in there that I'm just not aware of, and that's likely, so maybe I just don't know where to look in the financials there.
Yeah, you haven't received that. Actually, the staff has given me that information this afternoon. I've had a little trouble trying to copy that document to send out to all of the members of council. So maybe after this meeting, I'll figure that out.
Yeah, I understand. And then also my report, the spreadsheet for fund transfers, because you have the authority, and within, when we set the budget, you can transfer money like you please. But I would like to have an accounting of that and see that. So I don't know if you plan on addressing that. And then also about the unpaid property taxes that I brought up several meetings ago. I want to know how that's going to be addressed, or do I need to request that to be put on the committee in the whole? And then I know we've got a bunch of retirements in the city, just curious, I don't know if that's coming up.
The document that I'm referring to
Mhm.
addresses everything that you
Oh,
asked.
so even the crime,
Yeah, that's also a part of that document. So let me go back to the fund transfers, because you don't have that information. I always try to make sure that the council is certainly made aware when there are issues that are before the administration, and certainly that you need to know. Fund transfers would stack up to be something like this, and that is really an internal process. You're welcome to come in and take a look, but as far as us being able to assemble each and every one of the fund transfer forms that come through, that would be a very mighty task. So that's really not within the purview of your policy-making responsibilities. It is an administrative process. So, but we'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. But to compile that kind of information will be really outside of your realm and quite a task for the city council as well as the staff. The other items that you mentioned, though, is included in that memo that will provide you some information about that. As far as attending any of the ComStat meetings of the police department, I have offered that as an opportunity really for all members of council, just to give you a feel for what the police command staff looks at. It's not intended to be a regular meeting for you, but certainly just to give you an opportunity to see how well, so we'll make that arrangement.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd like to move on, you know, if that's sufficient for you, Councilman. Okay. Then we're going to bring us to item number 6, presentations and recommendations. So I think at this time we have it's better for me to read it up here, go down, or do you want the mic up?
Yes.
The City of Rocky Mount, North Carolina hereby proclaims October 2020 as Disability Awareness and Employment Month. And the City of Rocky Mount, in its observance, is commended to our citizens. Proclamation of the City of Rocky Mount. Whereas we, the citizens of Rocky Mount, North Carolina, place high value on local control over community services and, therefore, have chosen to operate a community-owned, locally controlled, not-for-profit electric and natural gas utility, and as customers and consumers and owners of our electric and natural gas utility have a direct say in utility operations and policies. Whereas the City of Rocky Mount provides our homes, businesses, farms, social service, and local government agencies with safe, reliable, efficient, and cost-effective electricity and natural gas, employing sound business practices designed to ensure the best possible services at not-for-profit rates. And whereas the City of Rocky Mount is a valuable community asset that contributes substantially to the well-being of local citizens through energy-efficient customer service, environmental protection, economic development, and safety awareness. And Whereas as this community's electric and natural gas system, the City of Rocky Mount first and only purpose is to work in partnership with its customer owners to furnish an essential public service and the best customer service to community citizens. And whereas that the City of Rocky Mount will continue to work to ensure consumer benefit from any changes in the electric and natural gas utility industries, just as it has since the early 1900s, when utilities were created to serve all the citizenry of Rocky Mount. Now therefore, I, C. Saunders Robertson, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the City of Rocky Mount, do proclaim the week of October 4th through the 10th, 2020, as Public Power and Public Natural Gas Week, in order to honor the City of Rocky Mount for its contributions to the community and its commitment to making consumer owners, policymakers, and employees more aware of its overall contributions to the community, and to make its consumer owners, policymakers, and employees more aware of the City of Rocky Mount's overall contributions to their well-being.
Thank you.
All right, proclamation of the City of Rocky Mount. Whereas the City of Rocky Mount and our first responders are committed and dedicated to ensuring the safety of all those living in and visiting Rocky Mount by reducing the occurrence of home fire and injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire. And whereas cooking is the leading cause of home fires in the United States, where 2 of every 5 home fires start in the kitchen, with 31% of those fires resulting from unattended cooking. And whereas more than half of the reported non-fatal home cooking fire injuries occurred when the victims tried to fight the fire themselves. And whereas Rocky Mount's residents should stay in the kitchen when frying food on the stovetop, keep a 3-foot kid-free zone around cooking areas, and keep anything that can catch fire away from the stovetops. Whereas residents should have planned and practiced home fire escape plan and have working smoke alarms to ensure they are prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas Rocky Mount's residents are responsive to public education measures and take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas the 2020 Fire Prevention Month theme, Serve Up Fire Safety in the Kitchen, effectively serves to remind us to stay alert and use caution when cooking to reduce the risk of kitchen fires. Now therefore, I, C. Saunders Robertson Jr., Mayor of the City of Rocky Mount, do hereby proclaim October 2020 as Fire Prevention Month in the City of Rocky Mount, and urge all Rocky Mount citizens to use safe cooking practices and take part in the many public safety activities and educational resources of Rocky Mount's fire and emergency services.
City manager, you're gonna split the difference, right? Okay. Go ahead.
Proclamation of the City of Rocky Mount. Whereas the Tar River and its tributaries are an important natural resource to the residents of the City of Rocky Mount and the state of North Carolina. And whereas stormwater is discharged into the Tar River and its tributaries without filtration or treatment, leading to a potential reduction in water quality. And whereas the most common sources of stormwater pollution are household hazardous chemicals, yard pet waste, automotive waste, fertilizers, litter, and eroded soils. And whereas pursuant to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, the City of Rocky Mount implemented a stormwater management program to control polluted stormwater runoff. And whereas public education and community involvement to control these pollutants are an essential component of the city's stormwater management program. And whereas the community's health, safety, and ability to enjoy the Tar River greatly depend on our efforts as a community to reduce stormwater pollution. Now therefore, I, C. Saunders Robertson Jr., Mayor of the City of Rocky Mount, do hereby proclaim the week of October 18th through the 24th of 2020 as Stormwater Awareness Week in the City of Rocky Mount. Item 7 of our agenda tonight is the petitions received from the public. The public petitions portion of the City Council meeting is an opportunity for public comment, and the City Council appreciates your attendance and thanks you for expressing your views and opinions. The City Council values all citizen input. This is an opportunity to raise a question or present a request to the Council. However, in most cases, Council members will not respond to public comments, but may refer a matter to City Manager or staff for follow-up. Time will be monitored in order to give everyone an opportunity to speak, and speakers will have 3 minutes. Please be aware that sign-in sheets must be presented to the security officer prior to the opening of petitions from the public. If an organized group is present to speak on a common issue, please designate one person to present the group's comments. If your comments are in regard to an item that is the subject of a public hearing, please wait until that item is introduced to speak. Time will also be monitored. If your comments are in regard to an evidentiary hearing, additional time may be granted. City Council requests that you please adhere to the following guidelines. Complete a sign-in sheet, address comments to the council as a whole and not to individual council members or city staff. Speak from the podium in a civil, non-argumentative, and respectful manner. Personal attacks which have the potential to disrupt the meeting will not be tolerated, and you will be asked to sit down or be removed from the meeting. Keep comments to 3 minutes. Thank you. I'll first recognize Reverend Nehemiah Smith.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, and Manager. First, I would like to say I will never apologize for being a well-spoken colored man. However, I will not be categorized as some magic Negro with polished pulpit skills who plays the tattered race card and knows how to convert fractions into percentages. I understand that there are those amongst us who feign ignorance when it comes to the continuing deteriorating plight of black people in America. The recent decision by a Kentucky grand jury to not bring charges against the policeman who murdered Breonna Taylor further highlights the Black Lives Matter movement and the need to end racism. It is, I tell you, not an issue of Marxism or black racism, whatever that is, but simply an issue of how the country values the lives of black people, or more directly, why it should. As I have said previously from this podium, I never play the race card. I just use the cards that were given to me and every other black man, woman, and child at birth. I would dare not blame white people for the plight of blacks in America. Someone has already done that for me. John Greenleaf Whittier said, quote, "For while we may well thank God for and congratulate one another on the prospect of the speedy emancipation of the slaves of the United States, we must not for a moment forget that from this hour, new and mighty responsibilities devolve upon us to aid, direct, and educate these millions left free indeed, but bewildered, ignorant, naked, and foodless in the wild chaos of civil war. We have to undo the accumulated wrongs of 2 centuries to remake the manhood which slavery has well nigh unmade, to see it that the long oppressed colored man has a fair field for development and improvement, and to tread under our feet the last vestige of that hateful prejudice which has been the strongest external support of Southern slavery. We must lift ourselves at once to the true Christian attitude where all distinctions of black and white are overlooked in the heartfelt recognition of the brotherhood of man," end quote. When this was written, America was only 200 years in the moral hole. Over 150 years later, it has dug itself even deeper. So when we hear about incidents like the one that allegedly happened to one of our black citizens trying to take her children to daycare only to be tased and handcuffed in front of them by a white state trooper, we should be disturbed by the very inhumanity of it. If not, shame on us all. Black lives mattering and ending racism in our lifetime is paramount. I'm willing to get in good trouble to see this end. Are you? Thank you.
Thank you. One, I'd like to ask Mr. Bronson Williams to the podium.
Say good evening to, or good afternoon rather, to Mayor and Council. Of course, while coming up here this afternoon, a man reluctantly forgot to take his gun off of him. The same man that made a questionable gesture in this very room as well. The same man that then asked me, what was I and Reverend Nehemiah Smith coming to Female Dog about today? I thought that was quite interesting. The city, through a press release and a press event, provided data that there was a victim of ransomware attack. As I understand, most ransomware, the purpose is to make sure that the system creates unusable files. And of course, they will use some type of hard-to-trace money transfer type of system. Which brings me to a concern. There's a Nashville man who heavily is associated with WHIG-TV, who shares that he has proof that was made available because of the attack. Now, I'm no billionaire businessman, but when a person has ransomware, the whole idea is to keep the data either locked and filed or hidden until that situation is paid for. So if data was available on the internet, then that serves no purpose of having ransomware unless this person or his associates or what have you were perhaps the people involved with the ransomware attack. So my question or ask of the council is that hopefully in this investigation that you will look at that Nashville man and maybe his associates to see if in fact he was involved in that ransomware attack or if he's just a liar. One of the two will certainly be the outcome of the situation. The other piece I do want to talk about as well is that as we continue to move forward in Rocky Mountain, there's a lot of conversation that we're, whatever the conversation, I try to dismiss a lot of it, but there's a lot of positive things happening in our city as we continue to see things happening. I encourage the city to continue to put out press releases and make people aware of the things that are happening in our city. Rocky Mountain, historically, as a city, is always rebuilding. We've faced so many challenges through storms, you name it, but always built back better. So I'm certainly excited to be in Rocky Mountain and continue to see the great investment happening in our communities. And as I was looking at the report that's available online about the areas in Rocky Mount and how downtown was an area of interest because all the other areas were thriving, and so you're putting the necessary focus where it needs to be. The fragile areas, that was the exact word they used. And so when there's a fragile item that is shipped, you handle that item with care. And so that's exactly what the city has been doing over these years, looking at the blight in our community and finding a way to rectify that. Thank you so much. You take care.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. I'd like to ask Mr. Johnny Cunningham to the podium.
Good afternoon, Council, Mayor. I count it a pleasure, and I will actually have one question for the entire council. I do remember the meetings opening in prayer. There was no announcement that the prayers would cease for some unexplained reason. You just opened in silence now. And if that's a mandate or someone requested that, or what is the problem? What caused the prayer and the opening of these council meetings to cease? The other thing is, I would really like that this council, if someone standing here and lashes out false, unproven allegations in the windows and straight out lies, there's some legal process either to restrain that person or to cause that person to cease until there is proof. And I'm not going to be hypocritical. I don't really stand on who's right or who's wrong because we all have filthy rags. We've all fallen short. And we've all done some things, I'm pretty sure, that we're not pleased with. And if we could, had the opportunity to go back and change, we would. But in any case, that's not. So what is the truth? And time after time, I've stood here with nothing but the truth. That's why I'm not on the left, I'm not on the right. I don't care what color you are, who you are, your association or your name. The fact of the matter is, if you're gonna stand here and accuse this council or anyone, then you should have undisputable truth, not from some source that you claim gave it to you. After you've been caught in so many lies, standing here proclaiming you had the truth, and that it was easily obtainable, but yet when research was done to obtain this easily obtainable proof, it don't exist. I just hope that this council would devise some type of system that if this council is going to be falsely accused, then there's avenues of slander, misrepresentation, defamation. This council does not deserve to be attacked in such a way, and definitely not by lies. Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir. This time I'd like to ask Seth, I believe it's pronounced Saintling. Did I pronounce your name right?
Yeah. Good afternoon, Council. My name is Seth Henry Britton Soigling, and I'm a citizen of Rocky Mount. Really grateful to live and work here in the Twin Counties. And I just want to thank you for your public service as council members. I also want to thank all the public servants, from school teachers to nurses to nonprofit staff, pastors, social workers, police officers, everyone who dedicates their time and service to share gifts with the people they serve. I'm here today to ask that the City Council does everything in their power to hold the State Trooper's Office accountable for the use of excessive force that happened against a Rocky Mount resident on September 24th. Rocky Mount resident Ty Jones was the victim of brutal police violence, excessive force, and abuse of power at the hands of State Troop Officer J.M. Phillips. I'm here to ask that, as a citizen, I'd like to see the City Council file a formal complaint with the State Bureau of Investigation, file a report of abuse of power to the Department of Public Safety, who oversees the Highway Patrol program, Ms. Jones was pulled over on Winstead Avenue while driving her children to daycare. She was a small woman at barely 170 pounds. She was tased, tackled to the ground, her head split open, bleeding. Her hand was split open, holes gouged into her hand and hip where taser notes burned off and dug away the skin from those areas of her body. She had severe bruising in her chest, back, and vocal area from the state trooper driving his body weight into her while she lay on her back. Her lips and face were bruised. I have the written statement from Ms. Jones for the council members if anyone is interested in seeing it. Just deeply, deeply concerned as a citizen that this act could happen in our community, and would like to ask that we all work together to hold any agency, whether they're our own agency or a state agency, accountable when there is misconduct against citizens. Would encourage the council to look into the Campaign Zero, which is a comprehensive set of 10 policies that local police departments can adopt to help reduce police violence and excessive force. And just thank you for your service and come as a request and a pleading for protecting all of our citizens in our community, especially when they're the victims of unnecessary violence. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I'd like to ask,
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, I'm sorry.
do you have something to give to
I have a
us?
folder for each council member.
awesome. Yeah.
In your folder, you'll find a written statement from Ms. Jones, images of the attack, and then some information about different policies that police departments can take to prevent use of excessive force.
Thank you.
I asked the city manager if she could involve our human department and also to verify the information that's been on social media and the information that we're going to receive through our chief or the highway, the state trooper, highway
Yes.
patrol officer.
Yes, we certainly can do that.
And as a council, we don't condone that, and it's not Rocky Mountain Police Department, but the state trooper. But we would like to know more information so we can make a statement in reference to that as a whole.
Yes, sir. We'll ask Chief Robinson to lead on that and get the information about the incident and advise the council accordingly.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to join in with feeling that we do have a responsibility, that we have a culture here of valuing all lives. And I don't know what happened or what didn't happen, but I did read the summary, and it's disturbing to me, no matter what happened, unless she was shooting at the police, how somebody could be thrown to the ground and tased repeatedly in front of a child care center, in front of her children. And whatever action that was taken, whatever escalating effort the officer or the highway patrol individual felt necessary, I don't know what a person would have done that would have created that response. So I don't know about any event that took place before, during, and I'm sure that they're investigating. But I would certainly hope as a city that we have humanity leading us in our enforcement policies and procedures, and other law enforcement entities, when they come into our city, need to recognize that we have a heightened enlightenment and that we will not tolerate that random type of violent behavior against our citizens, whoever it is.
Absolutely, I'm in agreement, and the city manager's indicated that we'll conduct an investigation, we'll have perhaps more clarity on the matter, which is discuss it next.
Yeah, well, we'll look into the incident.
I understand.
We'll involve it.
Any comments on that? Hearing none, I'll ask Ms. Marty Menges if she will come to the podium.
Sorry, a little late. Can't hear much out there anymore. This is not in association with anything that has just been said, but my mom and dad told me if any law enforcement person stopped me for any reason that I had no clue of, just do what they tell you. Don't try to think you're better than they are, just do it. Also, I would like to say, I have a suggestion for the city council and anybody in Rocky Mount or anywhere else, that you need to give yourself some self-love. Give to yourself the love you give to your friends. You are aware of their flaws, know your flaws, but appreciate how these imperfections are part of you, and you should care, trust, support yourselves just as you do your friends. And it would be nice if everybody, seems like lately the first thing you judge somebody on is their color of their skin. I think that's really stupid. And I also worry about, in my opinion, which probably means not a whole lot, it doesn't seem like the city council works together to unify to do something. I don't know, I can't understand how somebody on the city council that is closer related to somebody, that you are voting on something for them, that you don't hold your vote. I mean, judges, if you're in a court trial and you know somebody's uncle of that defendant, then you have to step back and let somebody else do it. And this council seems to vote willy-nilly about what they want to do instead of stopping and thinking. Also, my question was, why didn't the Rocky Mount or surrounding area builders have a say on building that hotel and garage that seems to get everybody all upset? Was the bid open to everybody, and why do we okay a guy that obviously we didn't know a whole lot about maybe, and he wanted a private public building? There are like a gazillion motels down there off 64 near the hospital, and I don't think the city had to put any money in on them. They seem to be doing pretty good. Also, I got a little thing from the city that said, you better cut your grass or I'm gonna cut it for you and I'm gonna charge you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith-Jess. Thank you.
What about Ebony and Ivory?
Thank you, Ms. Smith-Jess. Okay, that brings us to item number 8 on our agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
I'm sorry.
please, if
Madam Manager.
I could, at the last public comment period last week, there were some very disparaging comments that were made about one of our residents, Ms. Virginia Knight, as well as her late husband, concerning their payment history for their utilities. And I want to address that by asking the building collection director to come in and give you an account of that without disclosing too much about the account itself, because that's not in our purview to do so. However, I do feel like it's necessary to clear the air and make sure that this community understands that Ms. Knight and her deceased husband was always and has always been in good standing with their utility bills.
Good evening. I'm Latasha Hall, Interim Director of Business and Collection Services. The information I'm providing, I have been expressly advised that I'm okay to share. So with the account for the late Mr. Benjamin Knight, this account is not an account that had not been paid for or had not been paid on for several years. There were account payments. Everyone has late pays, and those payments were made accordingly, fees assessed to the account accordingly. For Ms. Virginia Knight, that account is paid accordingly. As I stated for the late Mr. Benjamin Knight, everyone has late fees, or not everyone, but majority of our customers that may face sometimes that they have to have late payments, they're assessed their late fees. So that account also is in good standing. They have not been on any type of list. They have not been deemed as accounts that should not be paid. As long as I have been here, those accounts have been paid and have been paid accordingly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then on the more recent comment that Ms. Menges, I think it is, made, the purpose of a city attorney is any time that there is a vote to be taken and the vote by a member of council is inappropriate, that is when the city attorney will step in and say, and tell the council member, you need to recuse yourself from this vote. So this is not a willy-nilly operation. This council, like any other council, is obligated to vote on issues that are before them, and it is the attorney who will ensure that every person who is voting has a right and a privilege to vote. So I want to make sure the public knows that we do follow those restrictions if necessary. If they're not necessary, then they're here to vote according to what they have sworn to do. So those were the two clarifications that I wanted to make.
Thank you, Madam Manager. Let's move on to item 8 on the agenda, which is consideration of the recommendation for the approval of the award of his duty sidearm and badge to Captain Michael A. Whitley for his 30 years of dedicated service. His retirement date was September 1st, 2020. Recommended action is to approve the award of duty sidearm and badge. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Daughtry, seconded by Councilman Joyner. Is there a need for discussion on this item? Hearing none, I'll ask the city clerk if she'll call the roll, and you'll please vote as your name is called.
Councilmember Knight,
Yes.
Blackwell,
Yes.
Joyner, Walker,
Yes.
Daughtridge,
Yes.
Bullock, and Miller.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 9 on our agenda is consideration of tax releases and/or refunds. Schedule A, taxes under $100 approved for release and/or refund by the city manager. Schedule B, taxes over $100 recommended for release and/or refund by the city council. Recommended action is to acknowledge the receipt report from the city manager of Schedule A taxes approved for release and/or refund, and 2, to approve release and/or refund of taxes listed on Schedule B. Do I have a motion? Motion made by Councilman Knight. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Joyner. Is there a need for discussion? This item. Hearing none, I'll ask the city clerk if she'll call the roll. Please vote when your name is called.
Councilmember Knight,
Yes.
Blackwell,
Yes.
Joyner, Walker,
Yes.
Daughtridge,
Yes.
Bullock, and Miller.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 10 is consideration of the budget ordinance amendment for fiscal year 2020-2021, appropriating funds for replacement of a water and sewer services vehicle deemed a lemon in accordance with applicable North Carolina law. $27,261 received as settlement payment from the manufacturer, and $3,875 to be appropriated from sewer fund reserves. The recommended action is to adopt this ordinance. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilperson Miller, second by Joyner. Is there a need for discussion on this item?
Can the city manager expand on that a little bit?
Yes, so the city purchased a vehicle that really was a lemon, so to speak, and so the manufacturer is reimbursing us for that vehicle. It wasn't enough to cover the entire cost of it, so that's why you have two different appropriations to cover the cost of $31,136.
Additional questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll ask the city clerk if she'll call the roll. If you'll please vote when your name is called.
Councilmember Knight, Blackwell,
Yes.
Joyner, Walker,
Yes.
Daughtridge,
Yes.
Bullock, and Miller.
I have a question.
Okay,
I will vote yes.
Thank you.
But I did try to ask a question before the vote was called. There's some delay apparently in the,
Motion carries. But yes, Councilperson Miller, if you would voice your question.
in such a case, does the vehicle go back to the manufacturer or does the city sell that through our usual disposal methods?
I really don't know the answer to that, but I'm almost certain that it would have to go back to the manufacturer, otherwise we would benefit twice. And so if I were the manufacturer, I'd want my lemon back, so we wouldn't.
Like lemonade, right?
Okay, motion carries. That brings us to item 11, which is consideration of resolution authorizing the acquisition of an option to purchase the Edgecombe Genco property. Option fee is $45,000, which includes reimbursement to Carolyn's Gateway Partnership of $20,000, an additional $25,000 for a 6-month extension option fee to be credited against purchase price if exercised. Do I hear a motion?
Move to adopt.
All right, Councilman Blackwell, to adopt the resolution. Is there a second? Second by Joyner. Is there a need for discussion on this item? Hearing none, I'll ask the city clerk if she'll call the roll, and please vote when your name is called.
Councilman Knight?
Yes.
Blackwell?
Yes.
Joyner? Walker?
Yes.
Daughtry?
Yes.
Bullock? And Miller?
Yes.
Our motion carries. Which brings us to item 12 that we added at the beginning of the meeting, and that is staff request that council adopt a project ordinance appropriating $793,141 to the Emergency Management Fund as awarded to the city from Edgecombe and Nash counties under the provisions of Senate Law 2020-80, which allocates funds provided from the United States Department of Treasury under the Coronavirus Relief Fund, CRF. The recommendation is that we adopt this ordinance. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Miller, second by Bullock. Is there a need for discussion on this matter?
Question.
Yes, Councilman Daughtry.
Madam Manager, do you know the breakdown between the two counties of the 793?
I don't, at this time, I don't know that we have come to a firm number on that, but this is for the month of October. You will note that there is funding set aside under other services, so if we need to increase that, we certainly can.
Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll ask the clerk if you'll call the roll, and if you hear your name, please vote.
Councilman Knight?
Yes.
Blackwell?
Yes.
Joyner? Walker?
Yes.
Daughtry?
Yes.
Bullock? And Miller?
Yes.
Motion carries. That brings us to committee appointments, and I understand Councilman Bullock, you had several. Do you want me to read the names that you gave to me, or do you have them? Okay, to clarify that, well, let me clarify it this way. You seek to reappoint Ellen Matthews for the Animal Care Control Advisory Board. You seek to appoint Mark Osterhout since he moved from Ward 4 to Ward 6 for the Board of Adjustment. And you're seeking to reappoint Matthew Sparati to the Planning Board, and seeking to have Marthaletta Muhammad appointed for the Ward 6 vacancy for the Utility Service Review Board. That's my understanding. And I'll add to that list as well. I would like to appoint Johnny McRae Jr. to the Mayor's Commission. So I think the next step would be to have a motion to adopt those names as listed. Motion made by Joyner, is there a second? Second by Daughtridge.
Second.
Is there a need for discussion on these items, these names? Hearing none, I'll ask City Clerk to call the roll, and as you hear your name, please vote.
Councilmember Knight. Blackwell.
Yes.
Joyner.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Daughtridge.
Yes.
Bullock.
Yes.
And Miller.
Yes.
Okay, with that, I'd like to hear a motion. Go ahead, sorry, Councilman
Is there a
Knight.
motion?
I was looking for closed session.
Well, I just wanted, just a brief comment. I think we have a citizen that is appointed on one of the boards that we need to go back and take a look at. And I'm not going to call the person's name this time, but the person has slandered the city manager, and majority of the council members. So we need to really look at that and see if this person really represent the city image and where we stand.
Sure.
Okay.
We can add that to the agenda for the next meeting.
Thank you. Thank you.
By that, I'd like to entertain a motion to go into closed session to talk about a personnel issue. Motion made by Councilman Joyner. Second by Councilman Blackwell. Is there a need for discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask the City Clerk if she will go through the roll. Please vote as you hear your name.
Councilmember Knight. Yes. Blackwell.
Yes.
Joyner. Walker. Walker. Daughtridge.
Yes.
Bullock.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Walker.
Okay, we're now in closed session.